What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. So as of the making of this video, the Master Collection is just a few short months away, and I don't know about you guys, but I still have a ton of unanswered questions about it. I want to quickly go over my top 5 of those unanswered questions with all of you, but first I want to say a massive thank you to everyone who's been showing support, whether it's through liking, commenting, or subscribing. The channel has been growing very rapidly. We just recently hit the 7,000 subscriber milestone, I think a week and a half ago, and we're already halfway to 8K, which is incredible. It's more than I could ever ask for, so thank you so much. It really does mean a lot. If you're not yet subscribed, please consider doing so. I make at the very least one Metal Gear Solid video or short a week. Now, on to the very first question that I have, which is which version of Metal Gear for the MSX are we getting? Let me clarify and say that I know we're getting Metal Gear for the MSX and we're also getting the NES port of Metal Gear. But what I'm talking about here is for the MSX port that we're getting, which port are we getting? And I know that's very confusing, so let me quickly go over this. There are 3 versions that I personally know of off the top of my head of Metal Gear for the MSX. There's obviously the original game that released exclusively in Japan for the MSX2. And then there's a port that they derived from that game from the original release that was intended for mobile phones. Now, not smartphones. These are mobile phones like flip phones in the mid-2000s that they created in order to promote the subsistence version of Metal Gear Solid 3. And then they also decided to put that phone port version into subsistence, which in turn means that that is the version that we also got in the HD collection version of MGS3. And that is the version that I'd wager most of you guys have played, and it's the only version of Metal Gear for the MSX that I have played. And there's also a third version that released semi-recently on GOG or GOG.com for PC. And that version is neither the original MSX version or the port that we got. It's this weird amalgam that's kind of existing between the two. And so that is the third version that I know of. And again, I don't know which version we are getting in the Master Collection. But let me backtrack a little bit and say that, again, I had never played the original version like on an MSX2 emulator until recently. And so I decided to download an MSX2 emulator and then also a hacked ROM of the original game of the original MSX version of Metal Gear. And the reason it was hacked is because it was a fan translation basically, right? So I decided to play through it. I've played through the subsistence version and the HD collection version plenty of times, and it's crazy, you guys, how much more fluid, responsive, and better looking the game is on the original MSX version. And I know I ran it on an emulator and that might have a little bit to do with it, but it is just so much nicer of an experience playing that version of the game. And there's kind of a trade-off here because the version that we got added an extra difficulty. It added ranks at the end of the game, and it added a boss rush mode that you can play once you've completed the game at least once. So there are bonus features to that phone subsistence or MGS3 HD collection version of the game, but I would gladly personally trade all of those away to have this original version of the game translated somehow. If they could translate it for us in the West or include, you know, different languages like they are for some of the other Metal Gear games, that would be awesome, because I promise you guys, this is the quintessential, the best way to play the game is the original MSX2 version. And if you want to try it yourselves because you don't believe me, you don't even have to download an MSX2 emulator or that hacked version of the game. You can try it. I'll put a link in the description below. You can actually play Metal Gear for the MSX on your web browser right now without downloading anything. And again, I'll put that link in the description so you guys can try it out. But you should be seeing footage behind me or somewhere in this video that shows you a comparison of the two. But I almost don't ever want to go back and play that version, that subsistence version that we got ever again after playing the original version. It's that much better. So that's the first thing, you guys. I'm really hoping and praying that we get some sort of original port of Metal Gear for the MSX2 in the Master Collection. That would be amazing, and I guarantee a lot more people, this game would resonate with a lot more people if that's the version that we got. So on to question number 2, and it's a big question, and I'm sure it's a question that a lot of you guys have been thinking over yourselves, and that is how the hell they're going to tackle the Psycho Mantis boss fight in Metal Gear Solid 1 in the Master Collection. The intended way to beat Psycho Mantis is by changing the controller port or the controller slot from slot 1 to slot 2. Now, from what I know, this is not possible on modern consoles or on PC. There's a second way to beat Mantis, and that's by destroying the statues in his boss room. And I actually just made a short relating to this and explaining how to do this. If you guys want to check that out, pause this video, check out the short, which you guys should be seeing in the channel card in this video, and then come back to this. It's very short. Obviously, it's a YouTube short, so it's less than a minute. If you guys don't know how to do it, you guys can learn very quickly and then come back to this video. And that's all well and good, right? That there is a second method to beating Mantis. However, that method requires you to die once and to clock one continue on your playthrough. Why that's a problem is I'll just take myself as an example. I like to play these games on the hardest difficulty and achieve the highest ranks that you can. And in order to do so, I can't sacrifice a continue or a game over. So there has to be a method to be able to beat Mantis without having to resort to that method that I just explained to you guys, or that I have the YouTube short on. So there is a PC version of Metal Gear Solid 1 that released, I think, in 2002 or 2003, that recently got ported onto GOG or GOG.com. And the way that they circumvented the Mantis fight on that is you could actually use, like, for example, a DualShock 3 on the PC version of Metal Gear Solid 1. But then for the Psycho Mantis fight, you would have to use your keyboard. And that was kind of like their makeshift way of switching your controller slot, or just making it so you're using a different input style or input device. And that obviously means that Mantis can't read your movements. That's not going to be possible, obviously, on the PC, Steam, or any of the console versions of Metal Gear Solid 1. So I wonder if they're going to have an option to kind of like emulate changing your controller slot, or I really don't know. That's why it's in this video what they're going to do. But there has to be a way to be able to beat Mantis without having to resort to using the statues. The one way they could do this is by making it so you can destroy the statues just right off the rip, for lack of a better term, right? The only kind of like negative when it comes to that is it completely destroys a gimmick that is, you know, pretty full of charm and pretty unique and very notable and well known when it comes to Metal Gear. Everybody has heard, even if you've never played Metal Gear Solid, you've heard of the whole Psycho Mantis change your controller slot trick. So I don't want them to remove it completely, but they do need to figure out a way to sort of circumvent, or, you know, give us a way to not resort to having a game over to be able to take on Psycho Mantis and get through the fight the way that it was intended. If you guys can think of a better way, I would really appreciate your feedback on this topic, or any of these topics really, in the comments below. So let me know what your solution would be to handle this Psycho Mantis boss fight. The next topic is pressure sensitivity and also controller layouts. This topic is very important to me. If there's one topic in this video that is the most important to me personally, it's definitely this one right here. And the reason being is because I've been playing these games for over 25 years nonstop, and I've grown very accustomed to the way that they play, to the button layouts, and the way that they feel when the player is playing these games. So any major changes to either of these two topics is pretty impactful for me personally. And so what I mean is these games were made with pressure sensitive buttons in mind. Just taking MGS2 as an example, holding up enemies is a crucial and super important part of the game, especially if you want to complete, you know, stuff like getting all the dog tags and all the different difficulties for the different special items. There's entire VR mission subgenres or subsets of the VR missions that are entirely dedicated to just holding up enemies. So if they don't find a way to incorporate some sort of alternative to having pressure sensitive buttons, it's not going to be a good experience for anybody, for new players or for us old school players either. So they need to find out a different control scheme or controller layout that allows us to be able to raise our weapons without fully firing them in the case of an automatic weapon, and also being able to hold up enemies quickly, efficiently, and fluidly while you're going about your VR mission or going through the story of the game. Now, from what I know, I haven't tested this out personally because I don't have either of the new Xbox consoles or any Xbox consoles in general, but I have heard and I have researched myself that if you play the HD collection on the Xbox Series X or S, they already have kind of like modified controls that I believe if you click in the equivalent of the left stick, L3, if you're a PlayStation gamer like me, the equivalent of L3, it makes it so it's kind of like locked and you can't fire your weapon. That's how you hold people up. I think that's a decent solution, but what I would like to see Konami do is actually incorporate some sort of either full controller button layout mapping, keybind, whatever you want to call it, mapping, so we, the players, can go in and change everything. I'm talking like even, you know, the codec button or the pause button, or, you know, all the bumpers and trigger buttons, make it so we can adjust them to what we want them to be, or offer at least a variety, at least 3, I should say, different control layouts. So maybe like a legacy layout, a modern control scheme for more modern gamers, where maybe you aim with L2 and you fire with R2 like you have in other games for the last decade or so or more. And then maybe like a mix of the two, or maybe the last slot is your own, you can go in there, like I mentioned, bind everything how you want it. There has to be a way to circumvent, not being able to hold up an enemy without raising your gun and firing it immediately. You should be seeing some examples of, different versions of the game, whether it's the HD collection version behind me, and then in turn the PC version of MGS2, and the differences it makes when you don't have pressure sensitivity. This is more of an issue with MGS2 than it is with MGS3. I mean, I'd still like to see it in MGS3, but it's much more of an issue in Sons of Liberty and Substance. The reason being, again, those dog tags and the hold up VR missions are going to be damn near impossible for like 99% of people, unless you're just like insanely good at these games and know exactly what you're doing. They have to find a way to make these control layouts less cumbersome rather than more cumbersome for new players. Now, on to number 4, which is, have they fixed the graphical glitches and errors present in the HD collection? So, these are little nitpicky things. These aren't as important as obviously what we just talked about, the pressure sensitivity or controller layouts, but they are still things that Bluepoint went in and changed or completely omitted from the HD collection re-releases of MGS2 and MGS3. Stuff such as missing textures, and you can notice these as early as the intro cutscene of Metal Gear Solid 2. And I actually dug out my PlayStation 2 and connected it to my capture card for you guys. This is not running on an emulator, this comparison. One is the original PlayStation 2 version of Metal Gear Solid 2, and the other is the HD collection. And you guys should be noticing some missing textures and effects, primarily in the rain, that are not present in the HD collection. And again, these are very nitpicky things, but still, there are things that they can go revert back to their original state and just bump up the graphics a little bit. And the Master Collection could actually result in being a better collection than the HD collection. So again, rain effects, stuff like that. The main pet peeve that I have with the HD collection version of MGS2 is the god-awful delays that are present when the codec is loading. So anytime that the codec is loading from like a cutscene, it takes ages. Just look at the comparison here between an old PS2, old hardware running old software, compared to newer hardware and newer software and the HD re-releases of this game. Look how much longer it takes. It's crazy, right? So that is something that drove my head up the wall every single time that I would play MGS2 on the HD collection, were those codec calls being super delayed. It's just really annoying. There's other little nitpicky things. Again, I'll just quickly go through them. The shaver, if you guys know about the shaver mechanic, you can actually find a shaver at the beginning of the plant chapter with Raiden, and once you meet up with Pliskin, he gives it to Pliskin in exchange for the things that Pliskin gives you. And then at the end of the game, you obviously meet up with Snake, and if you gave him the shaver, he's either fully shaved because you gave him the shaver, and if you didn't give him the shaver, then he still has his kind of like stubble. So again, it's just like a little thing that was present in MGS2. You can get the shaver in the HD collection of MGS2, but no matter what you do, there is no way to make that shaver mechanic work. Snake will always show up with the stubble at the end of the game in the HD collection version. So again, nitpicky little silly thing, but just thought I'd mention it. Same thing with the Solidus torture sequence. If you guys played either through emulator or you played MGS2 back in the day, either the original version or Substance, that torture sequence was probably the hardest, if not like top 3 hardest torture sequences in the game to get through, especially on harder difficulties, on higher difficulties. It is so easy, even on European Extreme, on or in the HD collection, that it's almost a joke. So Bluepoint definitely went in and broke something when they were creating the HD collection. So that's MGS2, just rapid firing things that off the top of my head that I thought of while making this video. For MGS3, the most egregious example of something that's completely broken is the Snake Eater intro song, and the Snake Eater just intro cutscene in general is completely off sync. It's crazy that they messed this up. Such an iconic part of the game is completely out of sync, the music and the visuals, which is kind of sad. You guys can look it up yourselves. Look up, MGS3 Snake Eater intro. Try to look for a PS2 intro or someone who fixed it, and then look at the HD collection version. It's crazy out of sync, so they need to fix that. And also, the main thing with MGS3 that I could not stand is the frame rate taking an absolute nosedive during certain portions of the game. So the portion that I always think back on the most notable for me is during the Shagohod portion where you're on the bike with Eva and the Shagohod is like destroying all those tanks near Groznygrad, right? So that point in the game, I think it dips down. It has to be like below 10 frames per second. It's so bad. It's really, really bad. So if they can fix those performance issues, again, the Master Collection has a chance at being a better collection than the HD Collection or the Legacy Collection. So I'm really hoping that they iron all these things out and are able to figure it out and give us an even better collection this time around. Now, the last question that I have pertains to trophy or achievement lists for Metal Gear 1 and Metal Gear 2, as well as Metal Gear Solid. Trophies have been soft confirmed via the Xbox Marketplace and also the PlayStation Store. And I say soft confirmed because we haven't seen any actual official trophy lists. All it says is that they're listed under features that Metal Gear 1, Metal Gear 2, and also Metal Gear Solid will have the access to achievement lists and trophy lists. Now, I'm really interested to see if there are going to be platinums for Metal Gear 1 and Metal Gear 2. My guess is they're going to be treated kind of similarly to Ground Zeroes and not include platinums. Maybe they'll have trophies, but they'll be included as part of another game's trophy. So maybe it'll be packaged in with Metal Gear 1, or sorry, Metal Gear Solid 1, or Metal Gear Solid 3 like it has been in the past. But, I mean, I'd like to see some platinums for Metal Gear 1 and Metal Gear 2. That'd be really cool. And what also would be cool is including platinums for the NES port and Snake's Revenge to kind of incentivize people to play those. I know a lot of people aren't going to touch them regardless, even if they add trophies to them. But for people like me who like these achievements, who like testing ourselves, it's a nice little bonus incentive to get us to play them. I mean, I plan to play them and stream them for you guys on twitch.tv/perfectstealth. Shameless plug. But for other people who need a little extra incentive, why not give them that with the NES port and Snake's Revenge? And now, one of the main things that I'm super excited about, probably the thing that I'm the most excited about when it comes to the Master Collection, is the thought of having trophies and a platinum trophy specifically for Metal Gear Solid. Like I said, it is the thing that I'm the most interested in. I want to stream it for you guys. I want to be one of the first people to get the Metal Gear Solid trophy. I want to make guides for you guys on the YouTube channel that are tailored specifically for those new Metal Gear Solid trophies if we are getting some. And all that fun stuff. It's very exciting to me as one, a player of these games, as a fan of these games, and two, as someone who creates content tailored for, or tailored to Metal Gear stuff and tailored to making guides for everybody. It's one of the things that I'm just super, super excited about. I'd like to see the platinum involve you playing the game on the hardest difficulty. Some of the other Metal Gear games, a lot of them actually don't require you to play on the hardest difficulty and get the highest rank. So adding another trophy, another platinum specifically that makes you play on the hardest difficulty and also get the highest rank would be really cool. I know some of you guys are probably like, no, I want a chance at getting the platinum. But again, I'm going to make guides for pretty much everything, and I'm going to start making guides very soon. A little spoiler for what's coming on my channel very soon. So yeah, like I'll have you guys covered, and you guys can use my guides to try to get the platinum if it does involve some high level play or anything like that. So again, very, very, very excited at the thought of trophies in general. I'm also very excited about being able to earn those trophies that I've gotten in MGS2, MGS3 in the past. Getting those, once again, getting them on stream with you guys is going to be a very fun experience. So that's the last thing, is trophies, how they're going to implement them if we're getting new trophies for these games. Again, they've been soft confirmed, but as of yet, I have not seen a trophy list. You guys bet your ass, as soon as I see that trophy list drop for any of these games that we don't have trophy lists for before, I'm going to make a video dedicated entirely to breaking down every single trophy, where I think it stands in the difficulty. And if you guys actually want to watch a video on Metal Gear trophies and the Platinum trophies ranked, I actually just came out with the video going over this very topic. You guys can check it out up on the card that you should be seeing in this YouTube video or on the end screen of this video, but check it out. That is going to be it for this video, you guys. Please let me know if there are any questions that you have personally that I didn't go over in this video. I would love to hear feedback from you guys, what your top 5 questions are, any questions that you may have, any concerns you may have, things that we haven't heard yet that you expected to hear 2.5 months from release, 3 months from release, that you want to see that I didn't cover in this video. Please let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, thank you so much for your support, as always, and I will see you guys in the next one.